Okay, I can practically hear every single severe weather or just weather YouTuber pulling out their recording devices at the same time on this Monday, October 6th. Just as I am as well. Today's video is both unplanned and unscripted, so if it sounds a lot more all over the place or not cohesive like it typically would for my style of videos, then that is why. And if my voice cracks, that is also because I've been battling sickness for about a week and a half, so I apologize. I might breathe heavily into the microphone a little bit. Today's video is going to be a discussion of, and probably ultimately a rambling about, the ever elusive, mystified EF-5 tornado. And that is because most recently, as of this morning, Monday, October 6th at 9:30 a.m. Central Time, the National Weather Service from Grand Forks, North Dakota, issued their final survey on a tornado that happened back in June of this year, June 2025. And they concluded that one of the tornadoes that occurred, the first tornado in Enderlin, North Dakota, was an EF-5. So we have a breaking of the EF-5 drought, if you will. So I want to quickly talk about the event itself and then talk about my kind of thoughts and the mystification of the EF-5 tornado and sort of how I generally perceive them in terms of the community and how the community treats this very elusive, I'm going to say mystified again, classification of tornadoes. You can tell I have sick brain right now. All right, so on June 20th of 2025 this year, the SPC issues their day one convective outlooks, and they've got an enhanced risk for the northern plains, which included a significant tornado risk area in portions of central North Dakota and Minnesota as well. What's interesting about this event is I'm typically pretty weather aware because of my day job, my regular job. I'm always either working or I am aware of what's going on in case I need to be working. So when I saw that this event produced an EF-5, I'm quickly trying to recount the days that I worked and what happened and if anything stuck out. If anything had stuck out to me this year, it was watching the tornadoes unfold live in Arkansas, the big ones that we saw live streamers chase, and a couple of other notable things that happened. But this wasn't one of them. In my mind, I recall, if anything, in June, a derecho event, which is what this was in the latter half of June. But this tornado particularly didn't stick out to me. And I can kind of see why. Of a fairly active season with quite a few notable tornadoes, this isn't one that particularly sticks out in my brain. So let's take a look at the public information statement from the National Weather Service. So the National Weather Service in Grand Forks conducted additional surveys and worked extensively with wind damage experts to further investigate the June 20th, 2025 Enderlin, North Dakota tornado number 1. My assumption here, without looking at the radar data, is that this is the first tornado producing storm of maybe what is a family of storms from this parent supercell, but I'll have to confirm that. So it says the estimated maximum wind speed of the Enderlin, North Dakota tornado number 1 is greater than 210 miles per hour and occurred during the time of the train derailment south of Enderlin, North Dakota. The analysis involved forensic damage wind speed estimates for tipping several fully loaded grain hopper cars and lofting tanker cars, excuse me, including one empty tanker car that was tossed about 475 feet or 145 meters. The maximum wind speed also correlates to the maximum strength on the WSR-88D storm relative velocity data from KMVX, that tower. Additional high-end damage indicators that have been reanalyzed and adjusted to include damage to the trees near the Maple River east of Enderlin and damage to Farmstead 2 on Highway 46. Further analysis of the trees surrounding the Maple River showed extensive tree damage throughout the entire river valley, with only stubs of large branches of trunks remaining and debarking with a sandpapering effect prevalent. Trees with trees with attached root ball displacements were noted, including one where original location could not be determined. Very interesting. Wind damage experts analysis. I can read. Wind damage experts analysis helped determine that the damage at the farmstead number 2 to be complete destruction, with the foundation considered to be swept clean and debris swept downwind and scattered. However, issues surrounding the lack of proper anchoring will limit the overall rating in this area. What's interesting about this is if you are chronically online in the weather enterprise, as many of us are if you're watching this channel, you know that the lack of proper anchoring issue has always been a hindrance to the garnering of an EF-5 rating with many other events. Mayfield is a great example. There are so many other high-end EF-4 rated tornadoes that were not given the EF-5 rating because the homes that were damaged did not have the proper anchoring in place that was needed to garner the rating, which makes sense. The system is a damage scale, not anything else. That's what it is. It's a damage scale. Some additional information: the tornadoes rated in EF-5. The estimated peak wind is given at greater than 210 miles per hour. I wonder if they had anything more specific than that based on the radar data, but it doesn't give anything. The path length is 12 miles. The width of the tornado, likely at its peak, would be 1.05 miles. There were 3 fatalities from this event. I will need to go and see if those were from the farmstead. I would assume so, but I don't want to fully assert that. And this tornado started at 11 p.m. Central Time in southern Enderlin, which is in Ransom County in North Dakota. My sort of initial thoughts here are a few things, and I want to share them with you. Feel free to disagree. This is just my unscripted initial thoughts of this rating. One of the things that I always talk about on this channel, and you'll notice if you've watched a lot of my videos, is that I don't really harp on ratings very much, and I've always said that's just because I don't think they're entirely relevant compared to things that we talk about on this channel, which is people losing their limbs and their lives, and people losing loved ones, people being disfigured and losing homes. I mean, those are far more, to me, interesting and complex topics to discuss and analyze rather than, I mean, I love radar data, I love meteorology, but to me the human impact is so much more interesting to talk about from my perspective compared to the velocity data. That's just my personal opinion. So my honest initial thought is that I'm glad that this tornado was rated an EF-5 rather than another big event. And let me explain that thought. I always really, every severe season, don't look forward to the amount of hyping and excitement and really rabid energy that comes with the weather enterprise and severe weather discussions pertaining to people honestly being rabid, and I'll just use that word rabid, towards tornado ratings, towards moderate and high end severe weather days, and the almost like feral excitement that some people get towards rating, and how angry people get about ratings and upset and very up in arms about things like anchors and bolts and velocity data when you've got, a family over here that's just lost their papa, So every year I'm sort of just feeling like, man, I really love so many facets of the weather enterprise, but I really hate this one part, which is people being dastardly about ratings. And so to have the EF-5 drought, I'm holding a couple there, to have the EF-5 drought, if you will, be taken down by, dismantled by this seemingly inconspicuous June derecho enhanced risk event is so much more, I don't want to say satisfying because there's still a loss of life here, but it really demystifies this giant idea of the elusive EF-5 tornado rating. I think for many years, people have had the idea that the next EF-5 rating had to come from some otherworldly, city-crushing horrific, incredibly deadly, massive, mega 2-mile wide EF-5 tornado that I guess could happen. And that was the idea that people went in with it. It had to be this major tornado outbreak to see the next EF-5. And rather, we have on a Monday morning in October, the EF-5 drought being broken by a June derecho event that happened at 11 p.m. in North Dakota. And it really demystifies the EF-5 tornado drought. I hope you all will understand what I mean when I say that and not take it the wrong way, because I always go above and beyond to talk about the human impact of events. I always go above and beyond to make sure that people know that even without the loss of life, that there are people who are injured and disfigured and mentally scarred beyond. And those are the most important takeaways from these events. People lose their homes. Someone lost their farmstead, which could have been, multiple generations of livelihood for somebody. My next thought after the initial one was kind of thinking about the history and context of the weather enterprise and recent weather history that led us to this point where people are so feral about ratings. And it really just comes from the last couple of EF-5 tornadoes that we had, which were so infamous, so deadly, and so horrific that it has always seemed hard to have other events that have measured up to them. So the last EF-5 tornadoes that we had were, Joplin. We had the 4 EF-5 tornadoes from the 2011 super outbreak, all of which were horrific on their own. And you even had events like Tuscaloosa that weren't EF-5s but were a razor blade away from being an EF-5. And we also had the last EF-5, which was Moore. And Moore, the 2013 Moore tornado, is such an infamous one. It was so devastating, and it took the lives of so many children that it has always felt like there were not many other tornado events in our modern time that could really top them. They felt like they were peak devastation that could really not be topped. Now, we've certainly had some that have lived up to the deadliness and devastation, i.e. Mayfield in 2021. But I think those years, 2011 and 2013, have really crafted this environment of the EF-5 tornado being such an elusive, enigmatic thing that really couldn't be topped. And I think that is sort of why people have over time, over the last 10 plus years, become somewhat unhinged when it comes to tornado ratings. What I do want to talk about now moving forward, my next thought about this EF-5 rating, and again, kind of comparing it to the last EF-5s that we had, comparing those to this enhanced risk derecho North Dakota event happening at 11 p.m. The juxtaposition of those two ratings is so interesting. It's so unique, and it so very much defies what people think the next EF-5 should have looked like. And I love that people's expectations have been really broken here with this next EF-5 rating. So moving forward to the future now, what I really hope that we can take from this is the demystification of the EF-5 rating. Sure, people are allowed to be upset about ratings if that's what they choose. People are allowed to argue about the meteorological data. I think that's fine as well, should they choose. But I really hope that we can take this concept of an extremely vague or seemingly mysterious EF-5 rating, why it's given to some storms, why it's not given to others. I hope that we can just squash the drought thing, the EF-5 drought, and move on to productive conversations about access to shelters, access to information and warnings, and the dissemination of information and why those things are important. I would love if we focused on some of those things. Maybe that is a pipe dream, but I really just love the idea that this random Monday morning on October 6th, the National Weather Service in Grand Forks has dropped this bomb on us of the next EF-5 rating. And I think that's interesting. Now, all of my opinions, all the things I've said have just come off the rip. These are just my opinions. I'm glad to see that most people are not too much that I've seen up in arms about the rating of this. And I really hope that this is the start of totally demystifying us fighting over ratings. I think it is so not it. And I would just really like to see us focus on other parts, like how to support the community right after these things happen, you know. I think that's kind of all I really have on this topic. I just wanted to film something really quick to open up a dialogue with you all and sort of ask you what your thoughts are. I'm not going to make this into a big production. I honestly think if you want, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I think that Tornado TRX, probably Ethan Moriarty, maybe Kelton, there's so many other good channels out there that are probably going to do a beautiful damage analysis. I actually know June 1st is going to make an analysis on this, so I'm just going to preemptively, before I even know for a fact, say that they're probably going to have some kind of good analysis on this. I can see it now in my head, so I would say check them out, but I know you guys already probably have. So with that, I think I'm just going to open the floor and ask you all what you think about this. Where were you when you heard about the news? How shocked were you? Because I know you probably were. And what do you think? Do you think that the idea of arguing about ratings has some sort of justification? If so, why do you think it's important to argue about ratings or to talk about them in a constructive manner? Or if not, also let me know. I would just really love to hear any of your thoughts pertaining to this topic. I was definitely shocked on this Monday morning, but I'm going to stop talking before I lose my voice again. Thank you all for being here. I do have another video that I have scripted out and just need to film, but I just got really funky sick and it's just been pushed for a week. So I'll have that filmed sometime soon. And in the meantime, you can catch me on Instagram. I'm active on there way more than anything else. So that's it. I will see you guys in the next week or two in a video. And yeah, bye. Sir, can you please tell me what you think about the latest EF-5 rating in North Dakota? And what do you think that this subversion of expectation means for the community moving forward? Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. And you, Mr. President, what do you think about the latest EF-5 rating in North Dakota? Thank you for your time.